green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And a good morning, football fans. Appreciate you doing the stream thing here with us on Birds 395. And yes, we will be talking about streaming at some point during the next 2 hours. Not Birds 365, but actual NFL games. I will be doing so with my partner, John McMullen, Jody McDonald. You got your Mac and Mac guys here. The streaming conversation can wait, Johnny Mac, because there were conversations with both the head coach of the Eagles and the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. Do you want to talk about them in the order in which they happened? They shortly after they wrap up Birds 365 coaches breakfast conversation, or the later in the evening Philadelphia Eagles Jeffrey Lurie addressing the meeting?
I thought we were going to talk about Kelly Green and number 0 Kelly Green jersey. That's the big news. That's the big news.
That would be part of the Lurie conversation. So if you want to start there, I'm perfectly fine with that.
No, I'm joking. Please don't start there. If we have to do a segment on Kelly Green, I might hang myself, but on live streaming. But, you know, if it makes fans happy, go spend the $110. They'll be thrilled. Get the number 0 jersey. You know, I do say, hopefully we'll close it out pretty quickly. But, you know, I always give Ruben credit. And I said, you know, that's right. It get me 10 minutes after an Eagles game. I just watched. I just charted. I just talked about. I can't tell you what they were wearing. I can't tell you. I probably will be able to tell you when they're wearing the Kelly Green, simply because so many people make such a big deal out of it for that particular day. But yeah, I mean, I hope people are happy it's back. It'll be an alternate jersey. Let's turn the page.
I am a fan of the Kelly Green, and I'm glad it's coming back. I am more similar to you and Rube in that it's the jersey. Let's actually talk about football. But Jeff Lurie seems very motivated to do so, and he wanted to get that news out.
You know why, Joey? He wants 2 alternate helmets as well. You know why, don't you?
A couple bucks in everybody's pocket.
There
yeah, I get that. But no, that's not according to the owner. He is doing it solely because that's what his fans want, and he's there to service the fans of the Philadelphia Eagles.
By the way, you also saw real quick. You also saw Roger Goodell, the reason he makes $63 million a year when they're talking about flexing Thursday night games. And he had to go out there with a straight face and say, oh, we're just doing it for the fans.
Yeah.
You know,
that is just a stone cold bigger lie than Jeff Lurie. I'm doing it purely out of the goodness of my heart for Philadelphia.
That was beautiful. That was if you could put why he makes so much money, if you could boil it down into 2 20-second clip, that would be it. That would be it. To try to frame that narrative as anything more than a blatant money grab, as every player in the league tweets at the same time. This is a disaster. Please don't do it. Starting with Patrick Mahomes.
And by the way, in case you don't know, they were proposing it. They didn't have enough votes to get it done. And when I say get it done, we're talking about having the ability to switch the games, flex in and out of games. I read last week that the proposal was just for the last quarter of the season, but that's upwards of 5 weeks. So that's putting 5 teams at a 10 teams at a disadvantage. You got two teams each game, and all the fans of those teams for those 5 weeks. Instead, it seems like they came out with a compromise position, whereas the way they've done it since it went to Amazon, the most any team would be asked to play is 1 game each on a Thursday night schedule. So they would cherry pick the games and put them in ahead of time so that each team was represented once. This year, you could be asked to play 2 Thursday night games. That's probably something that the bad teams don't have to sweat. No, the teams that may be asked to play two Thursday night
Cowboys and Eagles, baby.
The Philadelphia Eagles, exactly right, is one of the best teams in football. If they're doing it to increase the quality of the games on Thursday night, because Amazon is writing as big a check as they are, oh yeah, there's a distinct possibility that the Eagles are going to be asked to play 2 Thursday night. Eagles. Maybe if Rodgers gets traded to the Jets, my Jets could be in that 2 Thursday night mix as well. The Kansas City Chiefs. We know who the teams are, who are the best teams on paper going into next season. Yeah, there's a bunch.
By the way, to date, and there could be. It's not like I log these things, but I think I've heard one player say he doesn't mind Thursday night games. And that's a Philadelphia Eagle, and that's Jason Kelce, who has mastered the ability to play without practicing. He's mastered the ability to play at an all-pro level without practicing. I say that facetiously. He does a tremendous job when it comes to walkthroughs and all that kind of stuff, and he works very hard. I don't want to say that.
He walks through as hard as anyone out there. I got to tell you that, Johnny, man.
He does. Most players couldn't do that. That's the point. Most players can't not practice and play at the level of Jason Kelce. I've never heard a player say, "Yeah, I love playing on Thursday night." Never heard it except for Jason.
Which, all right, now I'll tick off all the players. It does balance out, right? I get it that the short week is more difficult than the benefit of a long week where you basically get a week and a half off the beginning to prepare. But no one ever talks about, off the Thursday night game, you got a mini. I've heard it referred to as a mini bye. A mini bye is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So it does balance out. So I am surprised that the percentages are 99.9 against 0.1%.
Because I don't think it balances out physically, Jody, for them. At least that's what football's not a game designed to be played, let's be honest, not even once a week. But it's certainly not, hey, go play on Sunday, then go play on Thursday. Those guys need that time to rehabilitate their body, especially veteran players. It's a little bit easier for younger players, but guys are banged up. And it doesn't correlate like the extra time. In fact, I'll use Jason again when he was talking about the bye week and the playoffs. He's like, this time of year, it's not an improvement from health wise. If you're banged up, you're banged up. You're not going to be that much better. So that short time frame is way more important for them than the mini bye. Like they'd rather do the 7 days because they get their bodies used to it. Right. They're creatures of habit.
It's all about the repetitious conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah. And they got a tough time getting out of bed on Wednesday. They ice their bodies. They do this. They get the massages. They get the acupuncture. Yeah, I mean, it was hilarious after they played. I forget who they played, but it was a Sunday night game, and maybe Sunday afternoon. They wouldn't have done Sunday night, but I forget. Anyway, they had all the stuff in the locker room. As soon as the game was over, they had the training table set up in the locker room. They had exercise bicycles. They had stim machines in the locker room after the game to get ready because they were playing. It would have been Houston on Thursday night. They hate it. They hate it.
But one thing that I think is just stone cold funny is for years, you and I have been around long enough, and I think even most of our streamers have been around long enough to remember when they only played 2 Thursday night games a year, and it was Thursday, Thanksgiving, and people would complain about the fact that it's always the Dallas Cowboys. Why does it always have to be the Dallas Cowboys? The Detroit Lions. Why the Detroit
Well,
Lions
more
always get to
Detroit.
play?
More
Well, if
Detroit.
it's such a labor to be able to play on a short week that every single Philadelphia Eagle fan should have been saying for years, yeah, go Thursday. It's all you, Cowboys. You'll be worse for it after playing. We'll just play all our Sunday games, and we'll be better than you in the NFC East. I've been doing sports talk in this town for 30 years. I've never once had one caller call and say that to me. Hey, Jody, I'm glad the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving Thursday. It gives us a tactical advantage. No, now that everybody's playing Thursday, oh, it's kind of difficult to play on Thursday. Nobody ever said that when the Cowboys were playing a Thursday game every single year, and only
Well, I don't.
I'm
I'm talking from a player perspective. I don't think for the most part fans care. For the most part, now
again, I've been doing sports talk in this town for 30 plus years. Don't think fans care about the Cowboys playing on Thursday night. You weren't doing my shows for 20 some odd years.
No,
How come the Cowboys get to play on Thanksgiving? Why are the Cowboys given the honor of playing on Thanksgiving?
Well, they don't like the
Cowboys are the
Cowboys.
America's team. That's complete BS. Why don't the Philadelphia Eagles I took the calls for 25 years.
Yeah, but that's not about Thursday night, Jody. That's about constant hatred of the Cowboys. They don't like, why are the Cowboys on Thursday night? Why are the Cowboys on Monday night? Why are the Cowboys on Sunday night? Well, because they draw ratings, better or worse, they do. Why they still do, I can't even tell you. That should be a study for, Scientific Journal of America or something. But they are the most popular team in the NFL. They are. I'm sorry if that upsets Eagles fans. They still are. There's certain teams. We know in baseball, it's the Yankees. In basketball, it was the Lakers for many years. It probably still is. There are certain teams that are elevated above other teams in sports. Always has been, always will be. In football, it's the Dallas Cowboys for whatever reason. And it continues. So it's not about Thursday night. It's about Sunday night. It's about Monday night.
Right,
It's
so-
about
so are
anything
you
that
telling me
happens.
that-
It's about a call that happens on game day. It's about everything. Oh, I don't like the Cowboys. That's what it's about.
Are you telling me that Eagle fans weren't bright enough to figure out that it was disadvantageous to play on Thursday for all those years for the Cowboys?
I'm telling you, Eagles fans can't see through the hatred of the Cowboys. Everything about the Cowboys they hate, and understandably so. But it's not about you're singling out Thursday. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah, because that's what we're talking about, the Thursday night games,
But
and
it's
then why it
everything.
is
But you
disadvantageous to play on a
you
Thursday. That's the conversation we're having.
Yeah, but you were talking about 25 years you've been on the air. So from that 25 years, even more that you've been on the air, they hate everything. It's not just Thursday. So I'm saying the reason why they didn't see it as a competitive advantage is because they're looking at, why are they on national TV? Why are they singled out? Why are they this? Why are they that? They hate everything about that team. That's the answer. I'm giving you the answer.
Right,
Why?
and
They
I'm
hate
trying
everything.
I'm trying to make a point that maybe they missed out on analyzing it, because despite the
Oh, they
fact that the
definitely
Cowboys
did.
were playing at a competitive advantage, they went to a whole bunch of Super Bowls, won a whole bunch of titles. They were able to get over playing one Thursday night game a year is the point I'm trying to make.
Well, good teams are going to be good teams. Thursday night, Sunday night, Saturday night, Friday night when they play Black Friday. Good teams are going to be good teams. I'm talking from a player perspective. That's all I'm talking about. The players hate it. The players hate it. Now, also, they don't want to get back the money
Right.
that they're getting from
Oh, yeah.
Amazon. So there's a little, but from the NFL standpoint, what the players will bring, there's so much hypocrisy when it comes to safety. They're constantly talking, they're trying to tweak the kickoffs again. Kickoffs. There's all this hypocrisy. And then, go play Thursday night. When they'll tell you this is not good for safety, for players' health and things of that standpoint. So there's tremendous hypocrisy on both sides. But I'm just trying to tell you the players hate it. And you saw it there was an explosion on social media of players all over the league saying, please don't do this. And that's being kind. A lot of them were.
And you pointed it out earlier. Talk about hypocrisy. Roger Goodell with a straight face trying to say it's for the benefit of the fans. Yeah, no, it's not. Ask anyone who's got reservations, plane reservation, hotel reservations to go fly and watch their team on a Sunday and be told 10 days ahead on them. Oh, yeah, never mind. You're not playing Sunday. You're playing the Thursday ahead of time. Yeah, that's really coming through for your fans there, Raj. Come on. Sometimes they say things that
you got to make the big bucks.
Question.
And by the way,
are the people you think
and you know, I'm sure there were others, but I saw John Mara, so I'm going to pick on him specifically. You know, he was out there saying, I don't want to play Thursday night football. That to me is like the second game. That to me is like the disingenuous politician, you know, Republican, Democrat, who know the bill's going to get passed. So their vote doesn't matter. And they go out and they go on the podium and say, oh, I agree with you. This is atrocious. But deep down, they know eventually it's going to pass. I'm going to get my money so I can, you know, have my cake and eat it too. That's just as much hypocrisy.
Yeah, I'm not even close on that one. I think Mara is a straight shooter and has done so many great things for the national.
And give the money back, John.
Over decades.
No, there's good and bad to everybody.
A whole bunch of owners in the National Football
Roger
League.
Goodell.
I'm
picking
John Mara
on.
Would be so far at the bottom of that list.
I'm picking on John Mara because he came out and said it. John Mara knows, like every owner in that league, eventually they're going to play. Eventually they're going to do this on Thursday night. Every single one of them knows it.
So when do you think that's going to happen? They go to being able to move games on Thursday. It's not going to happen. Well, they're going to actually talk about it in May. It still could happen.
They tabled it to May.
Do you think it's going to happen this year?
So you got to wrangle up
in this year.
It's like the whip. You got to wrangle up the politicians, all the disingenuous scumbags, and yes, they're all 32 of them, and I put them all in that same category,
including Jeff Lurie.
Doesn't mean they haven't done good things. Doesn't mean they have done. But you saw Jeffrey Lurie picking people's pockets. Jeffrey Lurie doesn't give a rat's ass about Kelly Green. Doesn't give a rat's ass. You know how I know that? Because he's the one who changed it to midnight green. And he likes the midnight green, and he doesn't know why everybody's obsessed with the Kelly green. But make a couple more bucks? Sure. Look, he does tremendous things with autism, all those things. Just because you're a greedy owner, which they all are, doesn't mean you can't do. It's not mutually exclusive. They do more charity than 99% of the people in the world who don't have the wherewithal to do that. So there's plenty of good, but I'm not going to pretend like there isn't plenty of bad. And John Mara, despite all the good you mentioned, knows damn well the end game here, and he's being a hypocrite like your typical politician. That's all I'm saying. Every single one of them knows the end game, and they can play this game as long as they want. And whether it happens in May or whether it happens next year, it's going to happen. It's going to happen because they got to make Amazon happy.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're right. But I do think there are greedier owners than others. You got the 32 of them. I don't think they're all equally greedy. I think there are some guys that are more in tune with putting money in their pocket, not doing what's right by their fans and the like. And I do. If you think I'm misguided, so be it. But I think John Mara is one of the better owners who actually does care about
I think fans. Jeffrey Lurie is one of the better owners. I'm not saying there's not a sliding scale. I'm saying at the end of the day, what he did yesterday was hypocrisy. That's all I'm saying. Okay. That specific instance was hypocrisy.
Fair enough. But I think that John Mara is one of the few, a handful of owners that has been that good for the entire league and the fans that he should be above and beyond criticism in this one particular thing. All right, Johnny Mac and I coming back. We got two good guests for you today. Our usual spot with Mike Gill from the Sports Bash down the shore. He's going to jump in early, and then a little later, hour number 2, get our pal Les Bowen up here. Sirianni and Laurie both spoke yesterday. We'll see what both John and Mike Gill think of what the owner and the coach had to say for the Philadelphia Eagles here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
My name is Fran Salerno. I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Mac guys here with you on Birds 365. We got our buddy from down the shore, the host of the Sports Bash, 97.3 FM, ESPN Radio, Mike Gill, good enough to jump in with us. Here's why I want to start with you, Mike Gill. Under over 425 and a half. The question is rushing yards this year for Trey Sermon. Because yesterday, Nick Sirianni talked him up a blue streak. Oh, my God, he's the greatest practice player in the history of practice. Man, you talk about Jason Kelsey going through those walkthroughs. Apparently, Trey Sermon did, too, and flashed some brilliance because the coach was talking about him yesterday as if he could be the Eagles' lead back this year.
You threw me a curveball with a Trey Sermon question to open up 5 in the morning.
Like, Mike's like, what? Who's Trey Sermon?
425. I mean, I got to go with the under there. I think Penny, we talked a little bit about him. I mean, I think if he's healthy and can get you 12 to 15 games, you're getting a guy who, I mean, behind this offensive line, he could approach 1,000 yards with the way that kid runs. I mean, he is a very, very good back. I don't know what Sermon's role is. You talk about what he said about Sermon yesterday. He talked with a lot of praise about Kenny Gainwell. Oh, you saw what he did in the playoffs.
Trey Sermon.
True, but the proof is in the pudding. Gainwell was on the field in the playoffs, Sermon inactive. So,
Exactly.
I mean, to me, you've got Penny, you've got Gainwell, you've got Scott, and Sermon would probably be the fourth. Now, does he pass Scott maybe on the depth chart? I don't think he I like Scott. I don't know why they don't use him more, but I can't see Sermon having a big enough role where he get consistent touches to eclipse 425 yards. So I'll take the under on that one.
Well, then what the hell are they going to do with Bijan Robinson when they take him at number 10, Mike?
I'm not in the camp that thinks they wouldn't take him, not at 10. I've done a lot of talking about this on my show. How far back is the line of demarcation to where you would move back?
I tried to ask Daniel Jeremiah that. I tried to ask him, what's the floor? Where would he go? Like numbers-wise.
Right. What team? Where's that team? Is it 17? Is it 15? Is it 20? How far back can you strategically go if you still want him to be in play? Because I would say this, Bijan Robinson's going to be best player available. When you draft, he's going to be the highest rated player on your board. If you have 10 and he's still on the board, he's got to be the best player available, no?
Yeah, I mean, he's closer.
Ranking, should be, yeah.
He's closer to Saquon Barkley as a prospect than, probably anybody since Saquon. So, Saquon went where, 2? Was it
2?
3?
2 or 3?
2 or 3?
2.
2. I think it was 2. Yeah. I mean, he's not lasting until 30.
Right. So where is that number?
10.
The Titans are at 11. They've had Derrick Henry for all these years. There was some talk about trying to move him. Do they get to move him between now and then? And then get a new Derrick Henry. They're right behind you. Washington, where are they? Like 16, somewhere in that range. Is that a team that would say, you're not getting past us? What's that team? Where's that number that the Eagles can say, all right, we're not at 10, we'll move back. And if he's there at 17, we'll take him.
Now, I will say, if you listen to Jeffrey Lurie, and I've been saying this for years, Jeffrey's been saying it for years, and he's right. He basically said, good offense beats good defense now. I mean, at the end, he said, whatever it was, $1:43 left. If the Eagles get the football, there's no Bradbury penalty. They kick a field goal. Eagles are probably winning that game. And Steve Spagnuolo's getting all the Jonathan Gannon shit over in Kansas City because they weren't stopping him. And I agree with him. Good defense used to be good offense in this league. Now it's the exact opposite. Jeffrey believes that. Jeffrey knows that. If that's the standpoint, why not just build up your offense to outscore people? And how do you easily do that? Add Bijan Robinson to
Jeffrey. Yeah, but Jeffrey offense believes we've got enough anecdotal evidence. Good passing offense beats good defense in the NFL. Not good balanced offense, good passing offense.
That's probably true as well. But I'm trying to play devil's advocate. You're blowing me up, Jody.
I give you a team, Mikey, that I think it depends on how you analyze it. It could be very advantageous for the Eagles. The Chicago Bears are at number 9. And they've turned the corner. Last year, they went backwards. They're now trying to build it back up and give Justin Fields more protection, more weapons, and the like. At number 9, I would think that Bijan Robinson, to get him to give Justin Fields a little bit more break, they doesn't have to run the football. I think the Bears are going to try and photocopy what the Eagles did, have a running game and a running quarterback so you don't have to put your quarterback at risk as much. I think he could go number 9, which then means, if we're right about the quarterbacks, that 4 quarterbacks are going in the first 8 picks. You've got 5 players that are taken that play in a position that the Eagles weren't going after anyway. Means you're getting the 5th best player at number 10. That's pretty good if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, they're in a great spot at 10, knowing that you have this quarter. Even if only 3 of the quarterbacks go, you have another, group of guys that wouldn't have normally been there that you have now to choose from. I said last week, I think on the show, I think the Bears have to take an offensive lineman. I mean, they have to. You just made the commitment to the quarterback by trading out of that spot. Their offensive line was horrendous last year. They've got to get a left tackle, right? They've got to get someone to play on that offensive line. So Bijan Robinson, that would be a spot for him, no question. But that would, to me, would be foolishly thinking that you can just pop a running back in there without an offensive line and think that he's going to all of a sudden help this offense out and save this offense. They've got to build, much like the Eagles, starting up front in the trenches, and as we know, look, the Eagles have a luxury pick. They can do something outside the box. We talked yesterday on our show, John, about the Giants took Saquon Barkley at number 2. Well, the Giants stunk. So taking Saquon Barkley hasn't really changed them. They weren't any good when they took him. The Eagles are one of the best offenses in the league and have a luxury pick. So because they're already one of the best offenses, with the luxury pick, you can get a luxury if you want to. You're not a team that is trying to rebuild yourself. How do you rebuild? From the line out. The Eagles already have a line. So they can go outside the box if they choose to. Now, I don't think they're all that comfortable at number 10 going outside the box, but they can get creative if they like the guy. There's a possibility they can move back to get that guy. That's why it's different taking a running back for the Eagles than, say, Chicago or when the Giants did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem. I mean, generally, when you're at the top of the draft, generally you're a bad football team at that particular moment. So, it's probably not good value to take a running back, certainly in the modern NFL at any point. That's the argument. Howie's so entrenched in valuation and value the pick, making sure not only you get a good player, but also get good value with that particular pick. Sometimes I think to a little bit too much, to a detriment. That's why I think there's no way he's taking a running back. And if he does, it would have to be the unicorn. It would have to be the Christian McCaffrey. Not only are you a Saquon Barkley-like runner, but you also have the rare, I would argue, never seen before receiving ability from that position. You got to be able to pass protect. You just got to be a unicorn of a player. So, I mean, it's fun to talk about, but in a lot of ways, I look at the running back room like the cornerback room. Like nobody learns from previous years. Remember at this time last year, the Eagles are talking up Kerry Vincent, Mac McCain, and Tate Gowan. Oh, we love these guys. We love these guys. They're going to be, now it's the Trey Sermons of the world, Kenny Gainwells of the world. And Kenny's more entrenched, and he did have a good postseason run. But I still say when Jody asked that question originally, over under 425, Trey Sermon's going to get an opportunity because, he's a former third-round pick. He's going to get an opportunity. But I think the leading rusher of this team is still TBD, to be determined. And by that, I mean he's probably not here yet. And that includes Rashad Penny as well. I think they're going to draft a kid, 3rd, 4th round. It's a deep running back draft. Yes, I know they don't have a 4th round pick right now, but they'll get one. And they might go the rookie running back route. I still think that's likely.
All right, but then if that's the case, John and Mike, how good is Trey Sermon? If you're going to take a running back in the 3rd or 4th round, and he's going to be good enough to become the number 1 running back of the Philadelphia Eagles, how good is Rashad Penny? How good is Kenny Gainwell?
Well, I'll tell you what scares me.
How good is Trey Sermon if he can't get out of the number 5 spot?
I'll tell you what concerns me about Trey Sermon. If the Eagles are the best running team in the NFL, San Francisco is probably number 2. And the fact that they gave up on him so early in the process, that's a little bit scary. That's a red flag to me because they run the football with anybody as well. Raheem Mostert was a nobody till he got to San Francisco, was cut like 100 times. And all of a sudden, everybody, Raheem, Jeff Wilson's of the world. I mean, anybody. It's like the old days with Mike Shanahan. Anybody behind that offensive line, that running scheme, Kyle Shanahan. There's an equation there. They run the football, and they get Trey Sermon in the third round, and they give up on him that quickly. That concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, I would. The one thing with Robinson that I think is being discounted a little bit. First off, the guy, he catches the ball out of the backfield. He can, he is an every down type of back. He breaks tackles. He makes people. I don't know if he's McCaffrey, but I'm saying he is a guy that you could do a lot with him. He is he's a tougher runner than Barkley is. I mean, and I don't think he would have the injury issues that Barkley has. Now, if you draft a guy in the middle rounds, these guys are all capable. Miles Sanders gets you 1,200 yards. You're talking about bringing a guy in, though, that could possibly be that guy that gets you 1,700 yards and be.
Do they need it, though? Look at the quarterback.
That's the question. Do they need it? Well, with the quarterback, does this lessen the quarterback's necessity to run, less hits on him? Or does the team not care? Do they want him to run? Is that an element that they want him to continue to add? Or do they want to start saying, let's scale that back by giving him a back who can break tackles? Miles Sanders not a guy breaking a lot of tackles. He was good at hitting the hole and just kind of going. But if he got, he was a lot of east-west stuff, not the best vision as Sanders.
All right.
Didn't catch the
I'm
ball.
glad you brought that up because I thought that was the most important part of Nick Sirianni's breakfast yesterday. I forgot who asked him, but somebody asked him basically that. Do you want to scale back on Jalen? And he answered, nope. I don't want to take away what he does well. Why do people want to take away what Jalen Hurts does well? So many fans want to take away. You want to take away Jalen Hurts. What makes Jalen Hurts great? The +1. And you want to take that away by saying, oh, we're just going to line up a back behind you, just hand it off. No zone read, no RPO. That puts incredible stress on the opposing defense. Now, I get the thought from a health. It's all health related, right? You think, well, less times to get hit. I get that part of it. But I think the Eagles are at the point where the shelf life is what the shelf life is. But I'm not going to take away what makes this kid great. And I agree with them. Do you guys agree with them?
Not as fervently as you do. How many carries did anybody know off the top of your head? How many and we know a good number of those were on 4th down at 1 yard. And we can debate the injury possibilities on a quarterback sneak as well. But how many carries did Jalen Hurts have last year? 100.
I'd have to look it up. 170.
Quick peek tells me Jalen Hurts
165.
165 times.
165.
So that's basically 10 times. Well, he didn't play in 2 games, so that's more than 10 carries a game.
I can hear Shane Steichen yelling at me right now, Jody.
For not knowing
how many sneaks? No. How many sneaks? How many were those meaningful carries? How many were those design carries?
Right. Oh, that's a Sirianni favorite. It doesn't count if it wasn't designed that way. Yes, it does, Coach. Anytime you put your quarterback at risk, it counts as a rushing attempt.
And it sounds great to say this as Sirianni now. And I agree with you, John. Like, you call the offense. Like, you're in the middle of the game. Your thought process is, well, I'm going to call this play. Oh, he might get hurt on this play, so I'm going to change. No, you're just calling in. Your instincts take over when competition happens. But I guess when you're writing a check for $50 million a year as opposed to whatever the check was this past year, somebody else might say, I don't want you running him as much.
That's the beauty. I don't think the owner's doing that. That's the beauty of it. And he's the only one you got to get the approval of. And he's going to write that check and say,
and if that's the case, then great. If that's the case, great. And it goes back to what I said, then the instincts take over. In the middle of the 4 quarters of the game, the instincts of everything take over, and you're calling plays freely as your instincts and your mind is telling you in that moment. And if Jalen Hurts is your best option, you're going to call Jalen Hurts to run how many times, Jody? 10 times a game.
Yeah, more than 10. And my point is, if it's scaled back to 8.5, would that be the worst thing in the world? Would you really be compromising your chances to win in week in and week out? I'm just saying that there might be a compromised position here. Those who go, he's got to stay in the pocket. Well, that's dumb because, as John pointed out, what makes Jalen Hurts special is the fact that he can make plays with his leg. To just wipe that off the screen would be idiotic. To contemplate maybe pulling it back a little bit and trying to scale it back, I don't think that's outrageous. And since you mentioned Jeff Lurie, John, yes, I do believe if Jalen Hurts got hurt on a rushing attempt in week 16 and was done for the season, yeah, I think it would pass through Jeff Lurie's mind. Do we really need to run the quarterback as much as we do? We couldn't just let Jalen pick him apart from the pocket. Yeah, I do think Nick Sirianni would have to worry about that if you got the worst case scenario results.
Well, he would get pissed in the moment. Everybody gets, but in the moment, it's incredibly disappointing when a superstar player gets hurt.
Who could also get hurt in the pocket?
Yeah, which he did. He's been hurt 2 years, right? He got hurt once in the pocket, once outside the pocket last year. So 2 years, 1-1. That's I say it all the time. I mean, you can't legislate injuries. You can try, but I think.
The Eagles think you can legislate injuries by practicing less.
And to a certain degree, they're right in the offseason stuff. It's not that it feels better. I don't know what term you want to use, but if you get hurt in the game, it seems more meaningful than if you get hurt in practice. Doesn't matter, but it seems more meaningful. So I think part of it's about that. You just want to get to the games and then say, all right, let's roll the dice. Everybody's rolling the dice. It's a violent sport. But I think part of what you say, Jody's kind of baked in with the experience. Jalen's going to continue to play. Jalen's going to get savvier and savvier. And if he's playing, the Eagles are up by 3 touchdowns. He's going to hand the ball off. He's just going to say, well, what do we care? But, if he needs to run it 13 times against the Cowboys to win the NFC East, he's probably going to win it 13 times. So I think part of that is just baked into his experience level as he continues to play. I'm with Nick, man. I'm not taking away his I'm not even thinking about making him think about taking away what makes him great as a player.
But I think Mike's point is well received. Once he signs that new contract, then he's eating up that percentage of the cap. There is more to lose if Jalen Hurts goes down with an injury.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean,
and especially
because that's coming. We all know it's coming. If you listen to both Sirianni and Lurie yesterday, let me give you this. If I were Jalen Hurts' agent, when I have my next negotiating session with Howie Roseman and I go into his office, I go, Howie, if you would, can I play this for you? I would play a tape of both Nick Sirianni talking about Jalen Hurts yesterday and Jeff Lurie talking about Jalen Hurts yesterday, because they were both full of glowing praise about how mature this way and the upside. And he's working. He's a maniac in the weight room. And he's going to be better next year than he was this year. I'd play that for Howie just in case Howie missed it. Yeah, right. This is the guy we're talking about, right? The one who your owner and coach can't come up with enough superlatives to describe him. What is that? How many over 50 million are we talking about? Yeah, the owner and the coach both made Howie Roseman's renegotiating job more difficult.
Yeah, they did. They're not even playing games here. That's what we were talking about that yesterday, Jody. I'm not even concerned at all that this extension is getting done. They're not even paying lip service to negotiating. They're like, you're great. We're going to pay you. I mean,
Sirianni called him Michael Jordan after the season ended. You knew at that moment. I mean, but quite frankly, you look at it from this perspective too. If we got to a point where we want to pay you $50 million, I shouldn't want to pay you $50 million and ask you to do less. You got to a point to earn $50 million by doing X. I don't want you to now do Y because I'm paying you more. I still want X.
Yeah, but sometimes X can be more valuable than Y. If Jalen's going to take off, run, turn it upfield,
Well, my
get 8
algebra
yards
skills aren't
on
all that
3rd and
good.
5, that's a good thing. But if he throws it downfield to A.J. Brown for a 25-yard gain, well, that's better than running and getting the chains moving.
It is. And my algebra skills aren't all that great at 46 years old. But I know if I add another weapon, then my X doesn't have to do as much. He can
That's
just
true.
continue
That's
to
very
be
true.
X.
I think most teams who have quarterbacks that are mobile, and it's a big parts, whether you want to call it RPO quarterbacks, zone read quarterbacks, I think it's kind of baked into their thought process that they're not getting Tom Brady's longevity. I mean, you're just not. But
Well,
I mean, then again, if you're picking a pocket quarterback, you're not getting Tom Brady's longevity
Right.
either.
And you're not getting Tom Brady. And you're not getting Tom Brady, by the way.
Yeah.
But just look at what's going on with Lamar Jackson. This guy was the MVP of the league. I mean, Jalen had a great year. He was second in the MVP. Lamar Jackson won an MVP award, and he can't get paid. He can't get the money. Now, he's asking for a ridiculous amount of money. But now,
yeah, he
he's
could
not
get
asking
paid.
for a
I'd
ridiculous
argue
amount of
with
money.
that. Yeah.
He's not asking for a ridiculous amount of money. He's asking for a ridiculous amount of way to get that money.
Yep.
But he can't get the money because, and nobody wants to trade for him either. Nobody, because they don't, not that they don't think he's worth it, is because he wants a ridiculous amount of money guaranteed. But I don't want to pay you this guaranteed money if I don't think you can stay healthy. They don't think the guy stinks. They don't think the guy's not going to make they all agree that he's going to make the team probably better, but they're afraid that he can't stay healthy. And you wonder if that is something that's in the Eagles' mind at all. It doesn't seem that enters their mind with Jalen Hurts at all, that, hey, this guy's not going to stay healthy. So why does it enter the other team's mind for Jackson, but not the Eagles' mind for Hurts?
Well, plus, and it amazes me why a lot of fans can't wrap their heads. We went through this with C.J. Gardner-Johnson for a much lesser degree than obviously Lamar, and every issue is different. But you know, it could be somebody who owns a business locally, a restaurant, whatever. If you got an employee who's a pain in the ass all the time, you're not happy with them. You're just not. I'm not saying it's right. Sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it's right. Sometimes it's in between. But I'm surprised why people can't get their head around it. And if you say, well, this guy's a pain in the ass, and this guy over here, he might not be quite as good, but he's not a pain in the ass, I'm going to go with the non-pain in the ass. I mean, that's common sense, isn't it?
Generally, yes. I mean, I've had some pain in the asses that I've had to deal with in my past, and it's much better. It's much better when the pains in the asses aren't there. By the way, was there ever reports or talk during the year that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a pain in the ass?
Oh yeah.
I talked about it on
one of the reasons
show.
why New Orleans was willing to trade him.
Well, I know that. I know New Orleans, thought he was a little flamboyant, and there was a lot of reports coming here that he was a very vocal and, but like, was there behind the scenes issues? Did players not like him? Did coaches not like him?
Well, he threw Gannon under the bus.
I think, look, the Eagles knew, as Jody knows, I called it a big personality. He's a really big personality, but he's not. There are big personalities. Brandon Graham be a perfect example. Darius Slay. There are big personalities who do it in a positive fashion for the most part. And I know people bring up Slay throwing Josiah Scott under the bus. And I argue Slay wasn't throwing Josiah Scott under the bus. He was just trying to educate fans who don't understand invert cover 2, and they're blaming him. Now, part of it is, he was upset that he got blamed for something that wasn't his fault. But at the end of the day, that's who he is. He's trying to educate people and saying, you don't know ball, blah, blah, blah. He talks his crap. And he's right. For the most part, 99% of the people don't. However, he does most of his in a positive fashion. I bring up when Devin Allen got here. Like, nobody knew Devin Allen. He wasn't here. He was still doing track. He was at the Penn relays. It was Slay who got teammates together, say, let's go support this kid. It was him who did that. That's why he was voted a team captain. Not only that reason, he does that kind of stuff. Brandon's the best guy in the world, right? But he talks immense trash, talks trash to everybody.
Yeah.
And if you can't handle that, you might get a little bit of upset. But he does it in a positive fashion. CJ, not as much. CJ is a pain in the what. But, the Eagles were fine with it. They were planning on bringing him back. That was motivated. I don't know if you saw Marcus Hayes, our buddy, his report. Denard Wilson, one of his jobs was like, hey, get this guy on the right page. Get this guy right. Get this guy on the page. Get this guy to buy in. And, that was pretty much the marching orders. So they knew it was going to be sort of a personality you had to massage. So, yeah, I mean, I see all these criticisms. Philly media is trying to throw CJ Gardner under the bus. I don't give a crap. If CJ's here, CJ's not here. 32 teams made the decision on CJ Gardner Johnson. I didn't make the decision on him.
Yeah.
He got the contract he got.
It just seemed that there was a reputation coming in, which was well documented. But during the season, the season went well. So we didn't hear a lot of, man, this Gardner Johnson's a pain in the ass. And then all of a sudden when he left, it was, this guy's a real pain in the ass. Or maybe I missed during the season that things were happening and didn't because the season was so positive that it didn't come to light all that much.
All right. But as John pointed out, we had Marcus Hayes on the show a couple of weeks ago. He did say that his sources told him that Denard Wilson did a real good job of keeping Gardner Johnson under wraps.
There you go.
They knew ahead of time that this is a big personality, as McMullen calls him, coming into the team. You're going to have to ride atop this guy and make sure that he doesn't do anything that's going to
Denard Wilson, thank you. You're fired.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it played out.
Mutually.
Last one from me.
Mutually.
Did Jeff Lurie throw Doug Peterson under the bus last night? And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I'll explain for you. In talking about Nick Sirianni and turning over the coaching staff and grinding and doing 12 linebacker coach interviews, Nick Sirianni really got into the picking the perfect staff and putting in the time and effort rather than just hiring his friends, which I heard that and I'm going, oh, that's a shot right across Doug Peterson's bow. He's taking a little dig at the former Super Bowl winning coach by pointing out how dedicated and into filling out a staff Nick Sirianni was.
Which doesn't seem to make a whole heck of a lot of sense considering Doug went to a disaster dumpster fire in the first year and got them to the playoffs. So it's not like what Doug has done is completely the wrong way. You may have had it here, not see eye to eye in a moment. The guy won you a Super Bowl, but then the roster started to deplete, and it seemed that they were targeting the coaching staff as to why you were having issues when it could have been twofold. That, yeah, maybe the coaching staff wasn't the greatest it could be, but you also had an aging roster that was decimated by injuries that all played a factor. So, yeah, to take a shot at Peterson seems to be, if that's what it was, seems to be pretty off.
Please feel free to correct me if you think I'm
wrong. I'm agreeing.
I think it was more of a. I'll say I think it was more of a shot at the league because he also mentioned nepotism, I believe, which wasn't about Doug Peterson. There was no nepotism there. That's about the Shanahans and the Donatels and the Zimmers and the Kubiaks, the regime names in this league where their kids are, immediately elevated.
Right. John, and I apologize for interrupting. Do you really want to go there in a press conference where someone can ask you about your son, his prepared nature to take over the team someday?
Yeah, I'm not saying. What did I talk about in the opening segment, Jody, with hypocrisy? He's the one who used nepotism. He used the word, and you're exactly right. Now ownership's a little bit different. You're not going to say, hey, I'm Jeffrey Lurie. I'm 71. I'm going to retire. I'm going to interview people to take over the Eagles. You're going to give it to your kid unless your kid's not a giant F up and, it hasn't. That's just the way it is. It's a little bit different. You're not going to interview people to take over the team as the owner. So I'll give him a little bit of a pass there. But, yeah, nepotism is a big problem in this league. Although, Kyle's done pretty well. Shanahan, the Kubiaks have done pretty well.
Bill Belichick's son,
Steve Belichick. Yeah, he's another one. Zimmer's son unfortunately passed away, but there's no way he should have been a defensive coordinator. He was.
Isn't
Donatel's kid? I mean, Donatel shouldn't be a defensive
great
coordinator.
grandson about ready to take over and become a coach in the National Football League?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
There is a lot of nepotism in this league. Now, what's ironic about Doug and completely unfair is some of these coaches Jeffrey didn't like at the end. And the best example of it is Press Taylor. Doug didn't hire Press Taylor. He was here. He was brought in by Chip Kelly, and they kept him. And why did they keep him? Because they loved him so much. And if you go back to the Super Bowl and you remember, Press Taylor, he found the Philly special. He mined it from a meaningless Chicago, Minnesota tape, week 17. He found it. He's responsible. And then all of a sudden, Doug takes a liking to him. Things go wrong with Carson Wentz, and all of a sudden, Press Taylor's an idiot. Well, that's not. And by the way, now he's the offensive coordinator of Jacksonville. He's doing fine. Come on, Jeffrey. Here's the thing about Jeffrey. Great owner. I say it all the time. But, when the expectations aren't met, he's going to find one or two scapegoats. And he proved it with Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe is a great guy, great coach, wide receivers coach now with Brian Daboll, who's a pretty good coach. So, it's not like he's a bad coach.
To judge anything off of the whatever Doug's last season was, 2021, 2020, to judge anything off of that season with the injuries that they had on that offensive line, I think it's misguided. Just to blame anybody fully, wholeheartedly would be misguided. I mean, look, it was a team that just got absolutely decimated by injuries. And on top of the fact, the guy you paid the most money and put the most trust in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Mike Rowe and Press Taylor are paying for Carson Wentz, and we now know it probably wasn't their fault. We now know that. So Jeffrey's a little bit off base there. But, he loves his guy now.
Carson going to get a job?
Yeah. Backup quarterback.
I'm not sure about that.
If he wants to play, which he says he does, there's not a lot of good quarterbacks. He's now firmly entrenched as a backup. There's not going to be any question about him starting. I think he'll get a job at some point. Might happen late, but there's not a lot of good backup quarterbacks. Our buddy Matt Bergeram had Gardner Minshew at number 4. So, there's not a lot of good backup quarterbacks.
Where do you have Marcus Mariota?
13, I think, Joe. Was it 13?
Or was it the other way around? Mariota was 4 and
Gardner was 13. That's why Matt, he had Minshew way better than
right. All I'll say for Carson is better root for an injury. I'm kind of with you, Mike. I don't think it's a lock that he's going to get a job in the league this upcoming year. All right, Mike, last thing. Which of these will you be purchasing? A Kelly Green hat, an actual Kelly Green Eagle jersey, a Kelly Green Eagle jersey. How are you going to help Mr. Laurie line his pockets with your Kelly Green swag purchase this offseason?
Well, not a big Kelly Green guy, man.
Oh.
I know everybody loves
Jeff Laurie doesn't want to hear that out of you, Mike. Yo, come on.
I know everybody loves the Kelly Green. I'm like the generation right ahead of the Kelly Green. Like, I got the back end of the Kelly Green. I did get the gangrene defense, the Buddy Ryan. I was very young for that.
Yeah, come on.
But, I grew up with the McNabb. It was my high school and college years. So I'm a midnight green. The Kelly Green to me is just never really did it for me much. I know that people love it. Doesn't do much for me. So I'm out on the Kelly Green hat, scarf, hoodie, all the above. I'm out.
Okay. I thought you were buying, but
no, I'm not a jersey guy to begin with. No jerseys here, but I will have the subliminal, like when I rock something, it's usually very small, although I'm rocking the Dunedin Brewery today. There you go. I know you like my t-shirts every week, Jody. Dunedin Brewery.
I had somebody, I think it was Mac now, and I had him on Sunday. That's like one of the best brewery places in America, that they've got a bunch of them in a 2-mile radius, 3 or 4 different brew house places. Who the hell knew that Dunedin, Florida was the brewing capital of the world?
Who trains there now? I get
Blue
mixed
Jays.
up.
The Blue Jays.
Forever.
Blue Jays.
The Dunedin Brewery is the oldest brewery in Florida, and in Dunedin, it is there's a block, there's a whole alleyway that has like 5 or 6 breweries. Right. Cooney is one. Something HOB is next door to that. I hit them all, baby.
Yeah, see, when I used to go to the Blue Jays and the Phillies preseason games in Dunedin, I'd leave by the 4th inning so I could get to Tampa Bay Downs by the 4th race. There was no stop-offs in the breweries. I knew just how to get from the Blue Jay Stadium to Tampa Bay Downs in about 18 minutes. I could make it for the second half of the card. Mikey, great stuff. Always a pleasure, bud. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, so you won't be going out and buying Kelly Green, but Jeff Lurie will forgive you just the same.
Yeah. At Mike Gill Show today, 2 to 6, 97.3.
You got John McMullen. Is that your big guest of the day? John McMullen come on your show today?
I'm always his biggest guest.
Monday through Thursday at 3:00. We do football. We do football at 4 every day. Football at 3, and a couple days a week at 5.
Right.
Football, baby. It's all football.
You might be getting McMullen this afternoon on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Thanks, Mike. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're your Mac Birds 365 guys. Les Bowen going to join us next hour. A couple of more Jeff Lurie statements from last night. I want to run by my partner. So keep it here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross. Is the best vacation one that you find or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning. One that lets you find your own rhythm or get carried away. Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
As a hard-working American, you've never experienced how tough life can be until now. A catastrophic injury while working on the job. A personal injury from someone else's negligence. Turned away by other law firms in the region who didn't bother to learn your story. It's time to meet the Fritz & Bianculli Law Firm and managing partner Brian Fritz. Badly injured? Call the Fritz & Bianculli Law Firm. Find out why they say, "We got this."
You got your Mac guy. I'm McMullen and Jody McDonald hanging here on Birds 365. Les Bowen going to jump in less than 20 minutes from now. John, we're talking about Sirianni and his meeting with the media early in the day, and then Lurie with his meeting later in the day. And since we're calling guys on the carpet for being disingenuous, can I use that word?
Sure.
I think I need to do that with the Eagles owner as well. When asked about the rule change, this is big. There's a rule change in the National Football League that was brought to the attention of the league by the Philadelphia Eagles, that next year players are going to be able to wear number 0. Jeff Lurie said it was because the Eagles needed another number.
Yeah.
Because they've changed what numbers players can wear, and for the ability of guys to get what they want, and that somehow the Philadelphia Eagles, who don't retire numbers, or many of them, are running short of numbers.
Yeah, I didn't
for
get
the
that.
equipment guy to have the flexibility to be able to give out number 0, that's why the Eagles brought a rule change to the National Football League's attention, because it's too difficult for the Eagles equipment guys to outfit the players with numbers. Really, Jeff, are you going there?
By the way, Jody, it's interesting you bring that up, because I chuckled at that as well. But the bigger part of me is he gave a shout out to John Ferrari, who, is the Eagles, one of the 2 Eagles assistant GMs. And he used to be the football compliance guy. He used to be the rules guy. And he gave a shout out. And I'm thinking to myself, nothing against John. I'm sure he does a tremendous job, but typically, compliance guys aren't elevated to assistant GM of the football team, and he's still worried about this. I mean, shouldn't his role have increased? That's where I went. And look, Howie never gave the assistant GM tag out until this year, and he gave it to John Ferrari, a compliance guy, rules guy, and Alec Halaby, analytics guy.
Yep.
He never gives it to a personnel guy. Howie's a great GM. You hear me all the time, top 5, but I'm fair. He doesn't want a personnel guy get any credit. Like Joe Douglas used to get credit before he moved on to the Jets. A lot of people would give Joe credit. That's a little bit of a ego thing, I think, for Howie.
Might well be, and I don't know this. This is pure speculation on Jody McDonald's part. The Eagles brought that number 0 thing back up 7 or 8 weeks ago. It was first reported that the Eagles were going to apply for and see if they could get voted through, the fact that the players could get the 0 number. It was before they had re-signed James Bradbury and before they had renegotiated Darius Slay. And Christian Gonzalez, the outstanding cornerback from Oregon, wore number 0 at Oregon this year. And I just, maybe I'm a little bit of a grassy knoll conspiracy theory guy. I read into it that they were greasing the skids for when they selected Christian Gonzalez with the 10th pick of the draft. Hey, we got your number 0. So listen, if we're fighting over the last $100,000 of this rookie deal here and signing bonus money, hey, we went to bat with you for the league before you even got into the league, Christian. So come on, give us a little break. Sign your contract.
I don't.
You're not going there with me.
No.
I'm going to.
Well,
I'm going up that hill by myself, McMullen.
Yeah, believe me, you're not by yourself. There's like 10,000 people on Reddit coming up with the same thing. There's always the conspiracy people.
I try not to be, but I went there on this occasion.
You don't want to highlight to anybody, hey, we're going to take Christian Gonzalez with the 10th pick. Then if somebody wants him at 9, they're going to trade up. So you never want to tip things to that degree. I think it's like everything else. Same thing as Kelly Green. Is there another way to eke out a little bit more money in merchandising and things like that? That's all I think it's about.
If you're right, and you may well be, the Eagles are the cutting edge team. They're the ones who came up with. Is that why Ferrari got the credit? Because none of the other 31 teams said, hey, number 0, more money for us, more merchandise, get it out there. Any way we can put more money.
I think, first of all, I would give the credit I will give credit. The Eagles are typically ahead of the curve on most things in the NFL. So I give them credit for that. I think most teams around the NFL are like me in this category. Like, who gives a flying, you know what? I think most teams don't care about this type of stuff at all. So there's part of both, I would say. I would say most teams
So is
don't
that
care.
negligence on the other teams that they're not thinking about how
Maybe-
to make
maybe on the business
themselves
side-
and their 31 other partners more money?
Maybe on the business side of things, not the football side.
That's part of it.
yeah.
You can't. While we may prefer to focus on the football side, sometimes the business side leaks over to the football side and has an effect. So you've got to be able to cover it all. And I thought Lori did a great job with that last night. We taped and replayed on my WIP show last night after 9:25. 17 minutes out of the 25 minutes that he did a good job of singing the praises of his entire organization. And that's what a good owner does, because you need a very good organization from top to bottom, a lot of people doing a lot of things. And he did go out of his way to give a lot of people credit last night for the very good season the Eagles had, going all the way till the last 10 seconds of the Super Bowl. And you would expect an owner to do that, and he wants to do that. I don't think it's misplaced with the Eagles. I do think they are one of the best run organizations in the entire National Football.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, every year at the annual meetings, they take annual coaches photo, which Nick Sirianni missed, but they're I believe 13 of the 32 NFL coaches who once worked for the Eagles. Think about that, Jody. I mean, we talked about the attrition in the front office. When people need executives, they're calling Philadelphia. They have been over the past year. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, people steal from the Eagles. They steal from the Eagles for a reason. Their guys are well trained, well prepared. Yeah, I mean, I can't criticize them for that. I mean, all over the league, everybody's got freaking everywhere you look. It's a guy you know. It's a guy who used to work here. It's unbelievable.
Both coaching and front office. So Jeff Lurie gave his entire team, and when I say team, I mean organization, props. All right, Les going to join us coming up in less than 5, but I do want to just get this into the mix. Meant to do it yesterday, but we were off on whatever tangents we were off on. Kind of a victory lap for yours truly. Last week when we talked about the Adam Schefter report that Ezekiel Edwards would consider coming to Philadelphia to play for the Eagles, one of the teams that he had interest in, I read the report and I just flat out laughed out loud. And my immediate thought was, this is a thinly veiled attempt to get the Cowboys reinterested. That if you're going to throw the Eagles in the mix, oh my God, what if he landed in Philadelphia? What if he scores 4 touchdowns against us in the 2 games next year? What if that's the reason the Eagles repeat as champions first time in 2 decades and we lose out because of Ezekiel? And the first thing that popped in my head was, oh, he just wants to re-engage with the Cowboys. Yesterday, it was not yesterday, day before, both Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones on the record. We haven't closed the door on Zeke. Yeah, we might not have negotiated a potential reduced contract with him, but we would never say, like Motel 6, we leave a light on for him. It's going to have to be at our dollar figure, but Zeke is not out of the potential mix for the Cowboys. He accomplished what he wanted to. He got him at least talking about it. He got a reporter to say, Zeke going to the Cowboys. Have you guys just completely given up on Zeke? And he got both the owner and the coach to say, oh, no, yeah, we'd still consider it. We're not moving toward it. Or
I don't know how much. It's funny because the Eagles have no interest.
None. Zero. Trace Herman's rushing for 458 yards this year, Johnny Mac. Come on. I heard the coach yesterday. He's the greatest practice runner of all time.
I think Robert Saleh, your guy, was asked about it, and he said, "We love our running back room. I'll just leave it at that." He pretty much closed the door. He was one of the teams.
He did. The Cowboys didn't. Salah did.
The Bengals were the other team. I don't think there's a lot of interest in Ezekiel Elliott. I didn't see what Jerry said. I saw what Mike said. And Mike was like, what were we just talking about the running back room? Nick talking up his guys. Yeah, that's what you do this time of year. So I think, we always keep the door open. Absolutely. Is what Mike said. I mean, what? So what? They don't want him. They don't want him either. Nobody wants him because they ran him into the ground. He's not the player he once was. Jerry, I didn't see, but Jerry's Jerry. I mean, it's like I was talking about last year at this time with Tay Gowan and Mac McCain, and you talk up your guys, and he's a legendary player for that organization. So there's that part of it as well. You want to, of course, we love Zeke. We love, they made their decision with Tony Pollard. If he wants to play on the veteran minimum, and maybe he'll have to, I think somebody will pay him a little bit more than that. Maybe they'd consider it. But when you're paying one running back $10 million, you're not going to pay another one $5 million.
Right. Oh, I think it's got to be the Cowboys price, and it might be the veteran minimum around the league. You're right. But I'll say this. I think Ezekiel Elliott has a much better chance of being a contributing player in the National Football League this year than Carson Wentz.
I agree with that because, I don't think Carson's going to play. If he goes somewhere, it's going to be strictly as a backup, and then you got to wait for injury. So if nobody gets injured, there's no way he's playing. And if he does play because of injury, he's probably not going to play well. I do think if Ezekiel signs somewhere, he's going to be a rotational back. So he's going to get a chance to play. So I would agree with that.
Yeah. So if I got $2 million, let's just pick that number, which, oh, by the way, Carson would be playing really on the cheap because I get it. Quarterbacks get paid more than running backs. It's night and day. It's the most valued position versus the least valued position. But I'd be willing to take a flyer on Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's got something left in the tank. Superstardom, no, that's done.
Not for the Eagles. Not for the Eagles, you're saying that.
Any team.
Really? The Eagles? Ezekiel Elliott? Boy, I'd be shocked.
Who do you think will rush for more yards next year, Ezekiel Elliott or Trey Sermon?
Here, Ezekiel Elliott.
But in the National Football League.
I think anywhere Ezekiel Elliott. But
right.
For those two, but that's not the plan. The plan is Rashad Penny or a rookie. Penny's an outlier. Obviously, if he plays, he's going to be fine. I mean, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And he's going to be much better than anybody they could get in the draft. Ezekiel Elliott, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, Trey Sermon. He's got more talent. He's got more ability. But you can't count on him. So I don't take any of that Trey Sermon talk for more than Kerry Benson, Tay Gowan talk. That's what it was.
Okay, you equated it to those two. I see where you're going because, they did talk them up a blue streak last year during the offseason, and none of them had anything to do with the Eagles' success making it to the Super Bowl. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald hanging with you on Birds 365. Our good buddy, longtime Eagle beat reporter Les Bowen will join us. He's done a bunch of the owners' meetings over the years, and the owner making one of the very few public appearances that he did. Want to get Les's thoughts on what Jeff Lurie had to say, Nick Sirianni had to say. Jeff, we'll talk to our buddy Les Bowen next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Appreciate you being part of Birds 365 on this Wednesday morning. All right, Jeff Lurie was a little braggadocious last night, so I'm going to do the same here. 3 good football minds to talk Eagles with you for the next 25, 30 minutes. Added to Mac, and Mac is Les Bowen, longtime Eagle beat reporter. Les, were you bummed yesterday when you weren't out at the very expensive Biltmore in Arizona for the owners' meetings? I know you went to a lot of them over the years in some pretty established places. Did you ever do the Biltmore for the winter meetings?
Oh yeah. In fact, that every other year they have it in Arizona, and it's always at that hotel, which I love. I've only stayed there once. When I first started covering the Eagles 20 years ago, the league actually they had a rate there, if you wanted to stay there for the meetings. Yeah. They quickly got rid of that. They don't want all those reporters you see there, they're not staying at the Biltmore. Right. They're staying at like a Marriott property a couple miles away that's much more reasonable. But I love that place. It has this wonderful courtyard, and there's a view of there's a mountain sort of framed by the courtyard behind it. And it's an old place. It's really lovely. Everything about it is amazing. And every picture I look at, I think I know where that is. Yeah, they're standing in this corridor over here. But it's when you're retired, it's I miss all the cool stuff. Yeah. And I conveniently forget all the things that just drove me crazy and that I hated about my work.
Yeah, I'm like that, Les, for the first. I hate missing stuff, so I didn't go out to the meetings. Like, I hate missing stuff, but then I'm like, boy, I'm glad I didn't have to travel out there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
in fact, one year at the Biltmore, I somehow really messed up my back and was like hunched over the whole time I was covering this, in pain, walking around. Every step was like agony, but you kind of forget that part.
Yeah. So did you have any pain or agony listening to Nick Sirianni at the breakfast, or Jeffrey Lurie, or, brag about the Kelly Green, which he got rid of in the first place? But I digress.
There was a lot of spin going on yesterday and from various quarters. But, I will say as a reporter, that is the best access of the year.
Yeah.
Sure.
To Sirianni, to Lurie, to Howie. The Howie session doesn't last very long, but there's so fewer people there than when he's talking in NovaCare. I mean, it's just so invaluable to be part of that. And they have and you know this, John, they have a party. I guess it was probably Monday night this year. Where everybody's invited, and all the coaches and GMs and owners go to this party along with the media, which is the only time ever in a year that you can just sort of saunter up to Jeff Lurie and, say, Jeff, how's it hanging? And you just don't get that kind
of. We lost Les.
Hopefully, Les unfreezes.
Yeah, he's right, though. It is the best availability of the year, of the entire year in the NFL. Les is 100% correct. The petting zoo as well.
Yeah, they ever had that. That's something new. Yeah.
Our buddy Jimmy Kempski with the sausage sandwich. You can get that. The breakfast with the good. Now, it used to be an hour back in the old days, Les. Now they cut it down to like a half hour. So they're limiting things as they usually do. But it is tremendous to be able to sort of have some of that behind the curtain access.
Yes.
When it comes to Jeffrey Lurie, I guess I'll start with him. Beyond the nonsense, the Kelly Green stuff and all that, I think it was interesting. Not that we didn't know this, but Jeffrey basically said, look, offense rules in the modern NFL. He kind of closed this press conference and he talked about a minute 43. If we're getting the football back down a field goal, we're built for this. Essentially saying we're going to win the game. I agree with him. Yeah. I agree with him, by the way. And then Steve Spagnuolo's getting all the you-know-what out in Kansas City because his defense falters at the end. Are we at the point where it's just build the offense and maybe cobble things together on the defense, or is that going too far?
I think that's a little too far, John. I think you have to get there to the Super Bowl, and I do think you have to be able to get a stop, and that's really why the Eagles lost. I mean, they couldn't get a stop in the second half.
Yep.
You don't have to play, they won the Super Bowl giving up 503 or 505 yards passing to Tom Brady.
That's amazing. That's still amazing.
They pretty much proved it that year, but every year, the matchups aren't always exactly the same. And like I said, you have to get there. And I really think you have to be able to play. You have to be able to get your offense on the field, if that makes any sense. And you do have to be presentable, I think, as a defense. You don't have to lead the league in defense. You don't have to shut down everything. But I think you have to have playmakers. If the Eagles could have gotten a turnover in that game, they would have won. That kind of stuff still matters. But Lurie's right. It's basically about the offense when you talk about being a contending team.
All right. Since we're dealing with the offense, I'll go here. John gave me a hard time earlier because I read too much between the lines on Trey Sermon. I thought the coach went over the top talking how great a practice player Trey Sermon was. All right, if you're right and I'm wrong, that's fine. Should I worry about Nick Sirianni singing the praises of Quez Watkins, that he does all these things that don't show up in the box score and you guys don't necessarily get it? And here's what I thought of Quez Watkins last year. He went backwards. He wasn't as good a player as he had been previously. Still a young player, an ascending player whose career direction took a wrong turn. But the coach yesterday was telling us we don't understand what Quez Watkins does that doesn't show up in the box score. I think it's kind of an understated, underrated need of the Eagles. They need an upgrade at wide receiver 3 because you're only one bad turned high ankle sprain from Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown to having that guy on the field 85 to 90% of the time. Am I going down a wrong road again here to think that the Eagles are going to try and get better than Quez Watkins at their third wide receiver spot?
Oh, no, but the key word there is try. Right now, from Nick Sirianni's perspective, Jody, Quez Watkins is the third receiver. And until he isn't, you try to salvage and you try to, make up for whatever is going on there. If he still thinks Quez Watkins has potential, that maybe he did take a wrong turn last year, but he's still here. And maybe you can get him back in the mode that he needs to be into for this year. Or maybe you're going to end up relying on him one way or another. Maybe you get somebody else and they get hurt. He's still Sirianni's guy, so Sirianni's going to plead his case. And the same thing went for Trey Sermon. If Trey Sermon really was that remarkable in practice last year, then they really screwed up by never getting him into a game.
Yeah,
I wish.
I was reading all that and thinking about the problems they had on special teams and how they didn't really shake up. They were so reluctant to shake up the bottom of the roster. They finally brought that linebacker in,
Christian Ellis.
Yeah, and he really had an impact, but it took them more than half the year to figure that out, And if Trey Sermon was really killing people in practice and doing this and doing that, I mean, they were a good team. They were a great team, but you could have gotten him a week. There were weeks when there was a running back who was banged up or something. You could have gotten him in a game.
Les, the funniest part of me, and I'm paraphrasing, when Nick said something like, I wish we could have gotten him more touches. Well, I know somebody who could have gotten him more touches. And he didn't get him more touches. I kept thinking about last year and Tay Gowan and Kerry Vincent and Mac McCain. Remember how the Eagles were talking up those guys? Oh, we love our young corners. We love our young. And even if then James Bradbury got here, you never heard their names again. Even the year before, it was Zach McPherson as a rookie. We're comfortable with Zach McPherson. And then Steve Nelson shows up 2 days before camp, and the first rep, he's the starting corner. I take everything with a grain of salt this time.
I guess you want to send that message to the player that he can't lose hope, and also to the rest of the league. If other teams are looking at the Eagles and saying, I have such and such running back. I wonder if the Eagles would give me like a 5th round pick for so-and-so. You want to present to the rest of the league that you're very confident in what you have, and, you're not needy in any way. Maybe you're trying to convince them that if Bijan Robinson is there at 30 with your second pick of the first round, that you're not going to go there. I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of things, that are out there that you could be trying to affect, but I don't take those words at face value. I mean, running back is a weird position in the NFL. Guys do come off practice squads and become starters and, do this and do that. But Trey Sermon may end up playing a role here, but if he was really that great last year and they never got him in a game, then shame on them.
All right, Les, we haven't had you on since free agency started a couple of weeks ago. We're now 2 weeks plus since the legal tampering phase of the offseason in the National Football League. All things in, all moves considered, what's been Howie Roseman's best move? Taking it within the context of salary cap and need and everything else, what do you think the best thing that Howie Roseman has done since the first day of free agency?
I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to say bringing both the corners back and having them happy. Keeping in mind that until right before free agency, we had no idea there was really a problem with Darius Slay. We didn't even factor him into the, when the season ended, we weren't factoring any drama with Darius Slay.
Well, I knew they had to get the cap number down. But I didn't think it would be a problem.
That would happen.
Yeah,
we didn't really
think it would be a problem. Yeah.
Nobody was saying when the season ended, Darius Slay is going to end up getting released or something like that.
Yeah, and the cap, we lost Les again, so hopefully we get him back. But the cap number was up, but I didn't think it was going to be a problem. Les is right.
Yeah, did you think it was going to go to the
No.
length of they might have to threaten to cut him?
Slay loves it here, and that's, his wife loves it here, and that's one of the reasons he's back, by the way, because he does love it here, and it was really meaningful for him to be voted team captain, legitimately emotional about being there. So I think a lot of that was, we all kind of put it in the rear. Well, Slay's going to be here, and they'll figure it out when it came to lowering the cap hit. So Les is 100% right on that. CJ, though, I think we all thought, conversely, if they're going to get two, I thought they were going to get, they were going to get one of the defensive backs back. Slay was going to be here, and then CJ was going to be here, and Bradbury was going to leave. Is it just as simple as CJ sitting on his hands, then they work something out with Bradbury, and then the money's up? Or do you think it was more big personality? We talked about CJ's, Marcus Hayes had his report about Denard Wilson, keeping him on the same page. I was talking about it's logical if you have an employee who's, a pain in the what versus one who's not. Right. You probably want the one who's not. What's your take on the CJ Gardner situation?
Well, I think I'll take what they said at face value to a point. I think they probably did target him going into free agency, think they could do a deal. He didn't want their deal. And I think they did move on. I'm not sure Bradbury. I think Bradbury and Slay, they gave a lot of extra money to Slay, to get that cap number down. I think by the time they got done with Bradbury and Slay, they didn't have much. And now, could they have made a harder push to match the Lions offer? I kind of think they could have if they really, really, really felt this was just essential to their team to do this. But they went out and got Terrell Edmonds very quickly, which kind of led me to believe that they had, they didn't just get caught flat-footed with not being able to re-sign CJ.
Yeah, Les, do you think things changed at all with the, him throwing the tweeting and deleting, him throwing Gannon under the bus, him sort of intimating some things about Jalen Hurts, who's obviously a big part of this organization?
Absolutely. I don't think that keeps you from signing him necessarily, but it certainly affects your enthusiasm level. And it makes you leery of what could happen with this guy if things go wrong, or if, it tempers your enthusiasm for his play, I think.
All right, Les, John and I were kicking this around earlier. Want your take on it. This past year, in 15 games, because he missed 2, Jalen Hurts carried the football 165 times, which is a dead flat average of 11 carries per game. And we know what the carries were: some RPOs, some quarterback sneaks, some he decides to take off and run after holding on to the football for 3.5 seconds, going, I got to get the hell out of here, and taking off and making plays with his legs. They were a combination of all those things. But the end number is 11 carries per game. You think he carries it more, the same, or less next year?
I would hope it's a little less. I've kind of given up on the idea that he'll have like a handful of carries. Because seeing how he played last season, I kind of concede now that that's not optimal. I mean, he's so good with his feet that I don't think you want to take that away from him. Certainly the sneaks, you keep the sneaks. He's not going to get hurt on a sneak, I don't think. And you
Peter King thinks it's coming. At some point this year, a missile linebacker is coming over the top and is going to take out a high-profile quarterback.
He might, but it's not going to be Jalen.
I don't see that. I really don't. The way they run it, he stays close to the ground. I just can't imagine that happening. I guess it could happen, but again, I don't think so. But Here's what does concern me a little bit. There were times this offense always ought to be functional with the receivers they have, the running backs they have, the offensive line they have, the tight end they have. They should be able to run their offense effectively against anybody. There were times last year, and not always against good teams, you know, the game he got hurt in Chicago, they couldn't do anything. They were struggling mightily. Well.
It was cold though. It was cold.
I know, but what they do, and I've said this before, if you ever remember that episode of The Simpsons where the kids play football, and it ends up Nelson is the only kid that can really get anything done, and he kind of looks at Milhouse and he looks at Bart, and he tucks the ball under his arm and just runs downfield, and all the other kids bounce off of him, and he scores a touchdown. That's the Eagles' offense when they get in trouble, you know, and I don't like that. I think that's, you know, there's no way they should have to resort to Jalen Hurts running around, you know, to move their offense. I mean, it's a great weapon to have, but that you don't just throw up your hands and have Jalen get it done when it's cold or, you know, when somebody has a good plan against you. You figure it out. And I want to see that happen. I don't want to see him average 11 carries a game. I think maybe 8 would be a nice number, you know, depending on the number of sneaks and things like that. But I don't want to see it go away, but I do think, you know, there's danger there. And we saw it vividly, you know, that injury could have been a lot worse. Yeah. What if he couldn't have played in the playoffs? How would things have gone then? You know,
yeah, they downplayed that thing from minute one. You know, Jalen, to his credit, he was at the post-game presser and he downplayed it, but that was a pretty significant injury. You're right, Les. That could have went in a really negative direction. I just love we got a Nelson Muntz reference from Les Bowen on Birds 365.
Uber impressed, like secondary characters. He's just ripping off Simpson stars.
Love it.
That was impressive, Les. I got to give it to you too.
Well,
love it. Now I want to go back to the Trey Sermon because I think it's ironic, and Quez Watkins as well, for this reason, Les. There are young players they are counting on. Really counting on.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Jurgens being one of them, Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, even Reed Blankenship, Milton Williams, if you want to go back a couple years. These are guys they're counting on that need to step up in the roles. And I thought it was interesting. Nick kind of went the opposite route with Cam Jurgens. Like he's talking up Trey Sermon and Quez Watkins, but it's like Cam Jurgens, well, you know, we'll see. We have Jack Driscoll as well. And you don't want to hand people anything. You don't want to decree them anything. You know, Cam, I think, played 35 snaps. So you want him to go earn it. But they need these guys. Is that sort of the mentality behind that?
Yeah, that's a very important point, John. They do need these guys as they move forward with this Hurts contract. You know, they don't have an alternative here. They can't go out and sign a bunch of guys to play these, but they have to have these guys they've drafted do have to move into these positions. And right now that's being taken as a given. And my position on that is, yeah, they have to do it, but it isn't a given. I mean, we didn't see enough of any of these guys, even Jordan Davis, to really be sure that things are just going to flow right on the way they were last year, you know, and everything's going to be great. With Jurgens, I have the most confidence probably of any of those guys in him just because of what the coaches say about him and the other players say about him. You're right. He played very few snaps. I do know when he was drafted, you know, the plan right now is for him to play right guard, obviously, with Suamalo gone. When Jurgens was drafted, I will say this, you know, it was as a center. And I asked somebody on that offensive line about the possibility of Jurgens playing guard if they needed him to play right guard, because Suamalo was coming off an injury and blah, blah, blah. You know, he was moving from left to right. This person said, well, we'd be awful light over there on the right side with him and Lane. You know, that wouldn't be anywhere near what the left side is in terms of weight and, you know,
that's true,
power. And I don't think Cam Jurgens has changed a whole lot in a year. You know, I think he's still a very small right guard, a much smaller man than Isaac Suamalo. So we'll see. Maybe there's a little bit of, yeah, he's going to get first crack, but we'll see how this goes. I mean, Cam Jurgens is going to be Jason Kelsey's successor.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, I never thought Kelsey was going to retire this year off of one of the best seasons of his career and the team going to the Super Bowl and not winning. It didn't make any sense to me at all that he would retire, but I do think this is it. I think this will be his last year.
Yeah,
finally.
we keep it, you're saying Cam is the heir apparent. He is. But remember, Isaac was the heir apparent. And then Landon
Nate Herbig was the heir apparent. They've had a
Nate
bunch
Herbig,
of heir apparents. Yeah.
Landon Dickerson was the heir apparent. And now Cam Jurgens is. So who knows? He might move to right guard and he plays so well. You remember going way back, Les, the original plan with Lane Johnson was, all right, he's going to play right tackle and then slide the left tackle when Jason Peters retired. Jason never retired. And all of a sudden one day Stout showed up and said, you know what? I'm not moving him. He's so good at right tackle. You never know. We're on heir apparent number 8 for Jason Kelsey. Right. It's unbelievable.
All right, let me get this in for both you guys because it's in your wheelhouse as Eagle beat guys. Shoot, Johnny's even, and you might have been, Les. I don't know if they included you in the competition. The correctly projecting the Eagle 53-man roster before the season
Les
starts.
Is a former champion.
You're a former champ, Les?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won that about 3 or 4 years ago, I think.
Way to go, big guy. Didn't know that. Congratulations to you. It's going to get tougher next year because one of the very few rule changes they made, the Eagles got them to add number 0 because according to the owner, they're running out of numbers and they just needed another number. I don't know what I was buying, what Jeffrey was selling yesterday, but one of the rule changes is 1 cut down.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to keep all your players, all 90, right up until right before the first game of the season. Now they built in an extra week in the new schedule. Isn't the quick turnaround last preseason, first game? There's that buffer week, Labor Day week. So that gives you a little extra scramble time, but scrambling is what it's going to be. Because if you have the layered cut downs leading up to, you give a guy a chance to go out and find another job. You can say you do the right thing, kind of sell your organization a little bit. Oh, we cut him ahead of time so you go get a job. No, everybody's going to be cut on the same day.
Yeah.
All the cut downs are coming at once. Good thing, bad thing? Why do you think they implemented this offseason?
Well, they've done a lot of finagling with that over the years. They went to keeping more guys later because that last preseason game was you want to have a bunch of guys that you don't care about, frankly.
Crash test dummies is what they are.
To play in that last preseason game against the Jets usually. It's interesting. I do think you gain, sometimes you pick up a guy from those early cuts, but if they have extra time to sort out who got cut between the last cut and the regular season, then they can do all that work, I guess. You'll probably see some shuffling, going on between,
especially with the bad teams. I mean, they'll pick across that, and you'll see the Bears did it last year. They picked up like 8 guys on waivers, which is rare. But I for people that want to see starters in preseason football, that's done. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have 90 guys. You don't have to. So there's some give and take to it. But certainly it's not it's going to make preseason football even less meaningful than it was, I think, from that standpoint.
Right.
Jody brings up the rules. I thought it was, Jeffrey gave a shout out to John Ferrari, who's sort of the compliance guy, the rules guy, who was promoted to assistant GM. I want to take it from, Howie never gave that title out. Didn't give it out to Joe Douglas, Andy Weidel. Didn't give it out to a personnel guy. He gives it out to John and Alec Hallaby, who's an analytics guy. Do you think that's purposeful? I kind of read it. I like Howie doesn't want for good or for bad. And by the way, I think Howie does a tremendous job. I think he's a great GM. But, back in the Joe Douglas days, I brought it up to Jody. People would say Joe was responsible for this and he would get some credit. For good or bad, Howie wants the credit. Do you see it that way?
I hadn't thought about that too much. You're saying that giving Ferrari the assistant title is sort of something
He doesn't
new?
want to give the assistant GM title to a personnel guy. He
Okay.
gave it to a compliance guy.
Yeah, you'd have
gave
an
it
heir
to an
apparent
analytics
there.
guy.
Yeah, if you had that. It's very interesting. I don't really know what Howie's thinking is there. I know my thinking is that Alec Hallaby is Julian Lurie's guy, and that someday, maybe 10, 15 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, it'll be an interesting dynamic when Julian Lurie is running the Eagles. Howie understands power politics. Howie was Joe Banner's protege.
Yep.
And then one day, Joe Banner wasn't there anymore.
Yes. That is correct. Howie's got a lot of pelts on the wall, I describe it. If you think about it over the years in the personnel department.
When Jason Light worked for the Eagles, and we're going back more than a decade now, I guess it doesn't matter now if I can tell the story of how he ended up leaving the Eagles. Jason and Howie were tight. They were kind of at the same level of the organization under Banner and Reed. And Light confided in someone else in the organization. Howie, people say he's not a football guy and that bothers him a lot, but he's really not as great a football guy as he thinks he is. And that got back to Howie, and Howie maneuvered Jason Light right out of there. So Howie knows how to play the palace intrigue game, certainly.
Yes, he does. Lewis Riddick. There's so many names. So many big names that have gone. But, to the Eagles' credit and Jeffrey Lurie's credit, when you see that annual coaches photo, and I think 13 of them used to work for Philadelphia, you see all the organizational assistant GMs. They have built a very, very strong organization. I loved your tweet, though, about Thursday Night Football. There's greed, and there's are you kidding me? About potentially flexing Thursday Night Football games.
There's no way that could work. There's no way the teams, the players,
I gotta tell you, Les, that's where we disagree. It's coming. I don't know when. I don't know if it's May. I don't know if it's next year, but they're doing it because Amazon wants them to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's complete greed, but it's going to happen. They've already changed that you can play 2 games now. That's to get the Cowboys on the docket, the Eagles.
The other thing they did is you don't have to have a Thursday game, which I read as we want to have fewer terrible teams on Thursday night.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're the worst team in the league, then we don't really need you to play on Thursday night.
You're not showing up on Thursday. You'll be playing Sunday at 1 every single week, guaranteed. All right, last thing for me, Les, we got to wrap this bad boy up. This upcoming season, will Les Bowen be going to the bottom of his drawer to pull out the Kelly Green 17 jersey of Harold Carmichael, or will he be going to PhiladelphiaEagles.com and ordering the Kelly Green 17 jersey of Nakobe Dean? If you're going to be paying homage to the Kelly, as Jeff Lurie believes that all Eagle fans on the planet want, are you lining his pockets with a new jersey, or do you got a good one that you've been holding out on that you're ready to break back out again?
I don't really buy those things as a writer, Jody, but I'll tell you this. I think they're going to screw this up. They had the 2010 opener. They used the Kelly Green. It was an elegant sort of homage to like the Chuck Bednarik, Jody. I mean, Jody. the
I'm
other
old, but
Tommy
I'm not as old as
McDonald.
Chuck.
Tommy McDonald.
Tommy McDonald.
Yeah. That era of the Eagles, which that's vintage, that's throwback. What people are talking about now is a throwback to the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, I know I'm old, but a throwback to the 90s, that's not a throwback.
That's 30 years ago now. Last year it is.
But that's not a vintage. Yeah, the 60s look.
Vintage, you're right.
The Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. Now that's vintage.
That's the ugliest
Yeah, the
thing
problem with that
ever.
is nobody even remembered that those were their colors. And
somebody tweeted that at AJ Brown. He's like, no thanks.
No.
He doesn't want to wear that.
Nobody thinks that's a good idea. But the 50s, 60s era, I think, would be the way to go with that. I think they're going to end up with like the Reggie White looking.
The Reggie Randall jersey was cool. That's when I got to town. It all comes down to when you first bought in. And I moved here in 1990. So, yeah, that's kind of my era.
The only team paraphernalia I have, Les, for any team is what was given to me free at times.
Yeah.
And it stays in a drawer or a box. It never comes out, by the way.
I have a lot of coasters. They kept giving us coasters there for a couple
Kelly
of years.
Green coasters.
I do use the coasters, actually.
Well, actually, this one's black.
Yeah,
but
I got that one.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going over to Les's house for a cocktail one of these days. So
yes, there you go. Yeah,
look at that. There it is.
Yeah, everybody's. How did I not get the coaster? I'm not on the beat, so I don't merit a coaster.
I like the coasters. They're
very good coasters.
Well, we like Les Bowen and we like having him on the show. And we're going to do so again within the next couple of weeks. Let's take a couple of weeks off. No Eagle stuff to talk about after the meet. Got a little downtime here. You get to hear from Jeff Lloyd. You got to hear from Barry. You got to hear from Howie. Howie will make a couple of under-the-radar free agent signings. We got a couple of weeks to relax a little bit. You do the same. We will be calling for your services again soon enough, my friend.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bowen
Les.
here with us on Birds.
Dueling coasters. How about that?
That's pretty cool. The fact that you both had the same coaster handy during the show. All right, quick timeout. Got to come back. Got to put a bow on the show. We're almost out of time.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm Managing Director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We started about a minute late today, so we're going to run a minute over. We're giving you your full 2 hours here on Birds 365, and we're running over because both Les Bowen and Mike Gill, our guests, were very good with us today. We thank them both. We only got enough time for one thing here, John McMullen. Here's what I choose it to be, a McMullen prediction. What Philadelphia Eagle in 2023 will wear number 0?
I think it'll be one of the rookies. So, but if not, if I had to choose
well, you can choose a rookie. You just got to name them. Who they're going to take in the 4th round. Nothing
well,
like.
Then I'd take Christian Gonzalez, but because they might take a cornerback at number 10. But that's too obvious.
You can go
I'm going to pick somebody on the team. I'm going to pick Kenny Gainwell.
Kenny Gainwell to go 0.
Yeah. It's not going to happen, but if I got to pick somebody, I mean, Christian Gonzalez is the obvious one. I'm going to give it to Barzy. That's what I want to show. Mark Barzetta. I want to mention for you,
will he be getting the Kelly Green 0 to wear on the Barzy show?
He should get the Kelly Green 0, but the Barzy show, which you see across YouTube, is also going to air on the JAKIB Sports YouTube page. So that'll start at 7, and then you can watch Birds 365 at 8, and that starts tomorrow, by the way, Jody.
And so by the way, I got a text last night while I'm on the air on WIP from one Mark Farzetta saying, "Hey, you want to tape a Farzy spot with me? You want to?"
There we go.
I was on the air going, "Yeah, I'll do it. You do that style. Come on our show. Of course, I'll come on your show. Just don't bother me now while I'm doing a show."
Yeah.
So
it's tough to do both at the same time. You could do a simulcast. Maybe do it. Go back and forth.
I will be showing up on the Farzy show within the next couple of days. All right, so you're going, and when I was a kid, I always wanted to wear number 1. When I
always wanted to wear number 6. Do you know why?
Why 6?
Jody McDonald.
No, tell me.
Julius Erving. That was my guy.
Oh, that's right. See, my Julius Erving was 32.
Yeah,
I go back pre-Sixers to when he was with the Nets.
I was
wearing 32.
I was
I thought 1 looked cool. I thought 0 looked stupid, but that's just me. But somebody's gonna wear 0. They better wear 0 after Jeff Lurie went. We need the number. That's why we got 0 cleared for everybody to wear because we're running out of numbers. Somebody better wear it on the Eagles next year. We shall see. All right, brother. I say we do this again tomorrow. You in?
Let's do it.
22 hours from now, we will be back here on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.